Okay, 7th graders, we're going to be talking about those word problems. So along the way, I want you to be copying down the problems on your paper, solving them step by step, making sure whatever I write, you write, and that way then you have good notes so that when I leave you to do some of the problems that you're actually practicing on their own. And these are the problems that you'll see on the test on Friday. Our first problem says, it takes a machine 20 minutes to fill 480 bottles of soda. At this rate, how many minutes will it take the machine to fill 620 bottles? So we know that we're dealing with proportions. So the first piece of information is here, and it's in this sentence. And so what it's saying to you is that you have two pieces of numbers, 20 minutes and 480 bottles. So we want to write, whoops, I shouldn't have done that. There's my arrow again. Okay, we want to write that we're dealing with bottles per minute. Okay, and if we're dealing with bottles per minute, then we can take that piece of information and say that they gave us 480 bottles in 20 minutes. All right, and now we're going to make it a proportion. We're going to say that that we want to set this equal to some other fraction because that's what we're dealing with. So at this rate, how many minutes will it take the machine to fill 620 bottles? Well, we're looking for minutes. Okay, how many minutes? So that means this is where your x goes. We're solving for minutes. But they did give us when you have 620 bottles of soda. So the bottles, again, goes in the numerator. Okay, now these are kind of big numbers. You can totally reduce if you wanted. You could take this fraction here and you could totally simplify it. I could see right away that you could turn it into 48 over 2 by dividing everything by 10 over 10. Okay, and 48 divided by 2 is really 24. So you could break it down even smaller and go 24 over 1 and set it equal to this proportion. It doesn't matter what you do with it as long as you do it mathematically. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave it. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave it and I'm going to say, all right, I'm going to use cross products. And remember, cross product says you multiply up and to the right and then up and to the left. So when I have 480 times x, I get 480x is equal to, and then it would be 20 times 620. Okay, so over here I'm going to do 620 times 20. Okay, and I get 2 zeros. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 6 is 12. So I end up with this big giant number. Okay, and to get x alone, I have to divide by 480. Divide by 480. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and try to simplify. Okay, I know that you can divide by 10 and those zeros go away. All right, I also know that I can take these things into primes if I wanted to get this a little bit simpler, or I can just do long division. So I'm going to choose primes because I like primes. I think they make it a lot easier. So if you do 1,240 and you just divide it by 2 alone, because I know that 48 is divisible by 2. Or you divide it by 4. Let's do it by 4 because that's easier. 4 goes into 12 3 times, and 4 goes into 1, or 4 once, and 4 goes into 0, 0. So 4 times 3, 10 makes that 1,200 or 12,400, whatever it is. Okay, so 4 times 3, 10. Oops. So then on my denominator, 48 is divisible by 4 as well. 4 goes into 4 1 time, and 4 goes into 8 2 times. So I've got equivalent forms of 1 there that I can take out. I can do my long division. Now it's a little bit easier, and I can say how many times does 12 go into 31? It goes in twice, which is 24, and I'm left with a 7. 12 goes into 7 how many times? Well, 12 times 5 is 60, so the next one would be 72. So it goes in 5 times, which is 60. And you have bring down a 10, which is going to do a 0 here, and then 12 goes into 100, 8 times, and there's going to be some numbers. So you're looking at a little more than 25. Okay, so my x is equal to that 25.08 something. Okay, well, what does that mean? What does that mean? If I have x equals 25.8. It really means that it takes a little over 25 minutes to fill 620 bottles of soda. So I need to write that. My answer needs to be, let's see if I can move this. My answer needs to be, it takes a little more than 25 minutes to fill 620 bottles. And that's my answer. And so there it is. And usually on our test, then I would tell you, hey, you've got to box your answer, right? So yes, it's one thing to have the number, but you need to make sure that you have your X answer, but that you also say, look, this is my real answer. So my page got a little filled, but that's okay. I'm going to try to do better on the next one. Here we go. Okay, so this problem here is saying to us, Sandy has been given 15 minutes to solve 48 problems. And so that's kind of our key piece of information. That's those two numbers that make a ratio in the first part of our problem. So we're going to write them as a ratio. 48 problems in 15 minutes. Okay, and I'm going to remind myself by putting the endings on them so that I can remember to set up the next fraction with the same endings. And they're asking how many problems. Well, that means that we don't know how many the number of problems is per minute. And per minute is clue because per minute means divided by 1 minute, per 1 minute. Okay, so now we're going to solve our algebra and say that we have 48 is equal to 15x. And all I did here to get that was say, all right, I have to use my cross products for this proportion. And 1 times 48 is 48, and 15 times x is 15x. And so now I'm going to solve, and I'm going to say that to get my x alone, I have to divide by 15. So 48 divided by 15 is really 3. 15 goes into 48 3 times, which is 45, and so it has a 3/15 remainder equals x. And 3/15 is really simplified to 3 1/5 is equal to x. Well, what does that mean? What was it that we were solving for? What was this x value? What did x really mean? It meant how many problems. So this is that she should solve 3 1/5 of a problem in order to finish on time. Now, you really can't solve 1/5. It's going to be hard to say how many, how much 1/5 of a problem really is. So if she solves 3 problems, she's never actually going to finish on time. But if she solves 4 problems, she's going to finish on time. So your answer really should be something like, she needs to solve at least 3 1/5 math problems per minute to finish on time. Because she can solve more than 3 1/5 math problems to finish on time, but she has to solve at least that. Okay, and once you have your answer and it's actually written out, because remember, we have to write out our answers. We can't just solve for x. Then we're going to box what we think is our official answer to a word problem. And a word problem always deals with words. Okay, here's our next. Our next problem says, it takes Mark 22 hours to read a 420-page book. At this rate, how long will it take him to read a 175-page book? So let's just use a little common sense now. If he's reading this 420-page book and it takes him 22 hours, is it going to take him more or less time to read that 175-page book? It should take him less time. So we're looking for hours that are less than 22. So if you get a number bigger than 22, you know you've done something wrong. So let's see if we can set up this problem. So we're going to say our first piece of information was in that first sentence, 22 hours to read a 420-page book. That means 420 pages per 22 hours. And it's equal to what? Well, what's the next thing that they gave us? It's the 775-page book. So pages must go in the numerator with the other pages. Notice I left my labels on my problem so that I can remember if I'm doing it right. And I want to solve for how long. Well, how long is time? So it goes in the denominator with the hours. Now I'm going to use my rules of cross products. And I'm going to say x times 420 is, let's solve it here, is 420x is equal to, and I want to do my cross products the other way, 22 times 175. And so some of you might have a calculator. You can plug it in. I don't. So I'm going to do my long division. And remember, on your test, you're not going to have a calculator. So 2 times 5 is 10. Carry my 1. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. I'm going to save my space. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry my 1. 2 times 7 is 14, plus 1 is 15. Carry my 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. I'm going to add it all up. And I get this big giant number, 3,850. To get my x alone, I want to divide by 420. So again, we're left with the situation of needing to simplify. So I'm going to say, all right, if I divide both by 10, my 0 goes away. And I'm left with 385 over 42. Okay, 42 is divisible by 6, by 7, by 3. So let's see if 385 is divisible by 3. 3 plus 5 is 8. 8 plus 8 is 16. It's not. So we might as well do our long division and see what happens. And so you're going to take 385 and you're going to divide it by 42. And 42 doesn't go into 38. So we need to think about how many times it goes into 385. So I'm going to think about this as a 40. And 40 goes into like 320, somewhere around 8 times. So I'm going to guess 8 and see what happens. 8 times 4 is 16. Carry my 1. 8 times 2 is 16. Carry my 1. 8 times 4 is 32. Plus 1 is 33. Let's see if it works out. I have to borrow. 7 minus 3 is 4. 15 minus 6 is 9. Oh, look, it could have gone in one more time. So I'm going to erase this, and I'm going to do it so that it goes in 9 times. I'm going to say 385 divided by 42 goes in 9 times. 9 times 2 is 18. Carry my 1. 9 times 4 is 36. Plus 1 is 37. So when I subtract, I get 8 plus 7 is 15. So I get a 7 remainder. So I really have x is equal to 9 and 7/40 seconds, which can be reduced to 9 and 1/6. Well, what was I talking about? What was the thing that I was solving for? Because I don't know what 9 and 1/6 has to deal with. It has to do with this x, which is down here in the bottom. And the x was how long? And we were dealing with hours. So this is 9 and 1/6 hours. Okay, and we need to write that. Our answer, I could figure out how many 1/6 of an hour is, or you can leave it. So you can say, it will take him 9 and 1/6 hours to read the 175-page book. Okay, and so this then is our answer, And we have to make sure that we box it because that's part of it, making sure that it can be found on the page. So I'm going to put a little box around it. Now, if you want to solve out what 1/6 of an hour is, you would say 1/6 of 60 minutes, which is really 60 times 1/6. And 60 times 1/6 is 60 over 6. And 60 over 6 is 10. So this is 9 hours and 10 minutes to read the 175-page book. Okay, let's move on to the next. Okay, this is our problem. John has 35 minutes to finish typing his English paper. He still has 625 words to type. How many words per minute does John have to type his paper or to finish his paper? So he has 625 words to finish, and he has 35 minutes to do it. So that's 625 words in 35 minutes. And we know we've been dealing with proportions, so I want to set it up. How many words? So how many words? That's our what? That's our variable. How many words? Put our variable in. Per minute. Well, per minute, remember, that means per 1 minute. So the denominator is 1. Okay, well, if the denominator is 1, we're doing a simple reduction. We're just dividing. We're saying that we want to go from this 35 to a 1, so I'm really dividing by 35. And if I divide the denominator by 35, I have to divide the numerator by 35. So x is really 625 divided by 35, which is great. We can do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to come over to the side of our paper and we're going to do our long division. 625 divided by 35. 35 goes into 62 once. And I'm going to subtract. I have to borrow. So I get 27. 35 doesn't go into 27, so I'm going to bring down my 5. 35 goes into 275. And 275. It goes in 7 times. 7 times 5 is 35. Carry my 3. 7 times 3 is 21. Plus 3 is 24. I wonder if I did something wrong. Hang on. Checking on my calculator. Okay, nope, we're good. So we're going to subtract. We'll get a 30. So 35 doesn't go into 30, which means we need a decimal, and we have to add another 0. So 35 goes into 300 8 times. 8 times 5 is 40. Carry my 4. 8 times 3 is 24, plus 4 is 28. So when I subtract, I get 20. 35 doesn't go into 20. I need to bring down another 0. So 35 goes into 200 5 times. Okay, so we might want to take it out one more place value. So 5 times 35 is 175, which we get a 25, and bring down a 0. So we need one more place. So 250 divided by 35, it goes in 7 times. Okay, and so remember, when we're taking it out to decimals, we always take it out to the thousands place and round to the hundredths. So this is really, x is about 17.86 because we had 17.857. So the 7 makes the 5 round up to the 6. So it's about 17.86. What does that mean? 17.86 what? Well, it should be words. Remember, the x that we were solving for was here. It was how many words per minute did he need? Well, he needs 17.86 words per minute. So we need to make sure that we write our answer. So he needs to type 17.86 words per minute to finish on time. Done. And that's what we box then for our final answer. Okay, and so you have to show all your work and you have to box it. All right, let's move on to the next problem. So we're comparing. We want to compare two things. Is it better to make 110 burgers in 5 minutes? Is it better to make 4 burgers in 3 seconds? Well, the problem with comparing these guys is that they're not in the same unit of time. So we have to do a little bit of conversions to make sure that they're in the same unit of time so we can actually compare them. That's kind of like the common denominator. Right now we have 110 in 5 minutes, or we have 4 in 3 seconds. Well, in order to compare, we actually need a common denominator. So seconds, if there's only 3 of them, it can't be converted to minutes. But if there's 5 minutes, we can convert it to seconds. So we have to think about what we have to do in order to convert. We know something. We know that there are 60 seconds in 1 minute. That's a fact. That's something we know. So if we really have, and in fact, I want to write this the other way. So if we know that in 1 minute there are 60 seconds, what happens if we have 5 minutes? Well, if there's 1 minute, 60. If it's 2 minutes, there's 120. If there's 3 minutes, there's 180. So what we're really doing is we're taking that 60 and we're multiplying it by the number of minutes. So 60 times 5 is going to give us the number of seconds. So 5 times 0 is 0, and 5 times 6 is 30. So this fraction here, this 110 in 5 minutes, can also be written as 110 in 300 seconds. It's the same thing. So I'm going to rewrite it down here. And we have it 110 in 3 seconds. 300 seconds. And we're comparing it to 4 in 3 seconds. So if we really want to compare, we have to go down to that unit rate. And remember, unit rate is when you put it over 1. So we want to take everything to the unit rate in the same measurement, seconds. So I have to divide 110 by 300. And if I do my long division, you would get 0.366. The 6 is kind of repeating in 1 second. Okay, so you can do 0.366 burgers in 1 minute. Well, now I have to do my long division for 4/3. 4 divided by 3 is really 1.3. So they're doing 1.3 burgers in 1 second. So which one is better? The one that is better is actually this one. 4 burgers in 3 seconds is faster than 110 burgers in 5 minutes. Okay, and the way that you solve it is that you have to find the unit of measurement conversion, and then you have to put it into its unit rate. Okay, let's look at the next one. Which is better, 3 pages per second or 129 pages per minute? So this is 3 pages per 1 second or 129 pages in 1 minute. Well, you can't compare them. One's in seconds, one's in minutes. You need to finish this problem. You need to show me the steps of how you convert them both to seconds, and then you find the unit rate and tell me which one is actually better. I'm going to move on, but you can come back to this page with your video if you need to. The next one, another comparison. You go to get copies printed. Quickie Print Company promises 7 pages per 5 seconds. 7 pages in 5 seconds. Okay, and that's from Quickie. But the other guy, Fast Print, says we'll give you 246 pages in 3 minutes. Who are you going to use? Which company are you going to use? Which one is better? So again, you need to find make them all both into seconds, so you have the same type of denominator, the same unit of time, then go to the unit rate, then you can compare them and decide who's faster. Let me know tomorrow. Show me your steps. And the last, Jason spent $375 to wash his car. Oh, it says was. It's really wash. Okay, he wants to wash his car. If 1/4 operates the car wash for 60 seconds, how long did it take him to wash his car? There are lots of ways to solve this problem. Okay, there's algebra equations that can be made, inequality equations. You could even make a chart. So you could make a chart that showed something like this. If he did 60 seconds, he paid 25 cents. Now, at 120 seconds, another 60 seconds, how much has he paid? He's paid 50 cents. Another 60 seconds is up to 180 seconds, and he would have paid 75 cents. Keep your chart going, and you can solve this problem to figure out how many seconds it took him to wash his car. Okay? I want to know the seconds that it took him. I want to know the minutes that it took him. And I want you to see if you can find an algebra equation. Okay? Something with an x equals something else to solve this problem. The chart will help you. All right, that's it for today. So I want you to finish those 3 problems and bring them in tomorrow.